So here we have our 2001 Jeep Cherokee. This is today's project. Let's get into it. Hey guys, welcome back to the Adam Project. Today we're working on the 2001 Jeep Cherokee, the Classic XJ with Classic XJ problems. What we're working on today is the notorious front speaker failure on these vehicles. Now, what turns out to be the actual problem is different than what we're doing, but what we're doing is going to solve it either way. What I'm getting at is, it's really common that in the process of opening and closing the doors throughout its lifetime, that the speaker wires deteriorate to the point of just no longer working. And what a lot of people feel is the need for new speakers is really just a need for replacement wire. So I'm going to follow the tradition of everyone else and replace the speakers along with the wire. The difficult thing is, since it's already in a harness and everything like that, it's not easy to track it down because it's basically broken inside of the flexible conduit between the door and the body. So what we're going to do is we're going to run speaker wire straight from the back of the unit to the speakers, and hopefully that'll last for as long as we have this vehicle. At the same time, I bought a set of Kicker 300 watt, 6.5 inch speakers, and we're going to install those because if I'm going through all the effort, I might as well put better speakers in. Previously, I already installed a set of 6.5s in the back, and that was really simple. I can go over it, but I don't really think it's necessary because there's really nothing to it. They just pop the screens out and screw the speakers in the back. There's a billion people that have done it online already. If you want to watch that, then fine. But I'm just not going to show it because it's been done. So let's get into this front speaker and tear this front instrumentation cluster apart and see how much of a nightmare it's going to be. One thing I forgot to mention is, because this is an extremely old vehicle and it's a desert vehicle, everything is dried out in it. So I went ahead and purchased a whole bag of replacement pieces for the door panels, because to get to the front speaker you have to pull the door panels off. When you pull the door panels off, you inevitably break these. So I bought a whole bunch of them. This is supposed to be the replacement. It looks nothing like the one that's in there, but the good old China said that this is the Amazon ticket, so we're going to try it now. So one of the first things that we need to do is we need to get the radio out so that we can take a look at the harness that's connected to the radio to determine which wires we need to replace to run to the front two speakers. So let's get going on that. Essentially all I have to do is move some stuff out of the way and pull. So get the shifter out of the way, reach under here, pull this out. And the radio is held in place with two bolts, nuts that are approximately 10 millimeters. Let's see if the radio will come out. And it does. And look at all that dirt. So those are the wiring harnesses that we need to connect to. I'm going to take a look at the online documentation. Pull the antenna out really quick so I can get some slack. I'm going to look online for documentation on which wires we need to replace, and let's go from there. Okay, according to the internet, which is probably 100% accurate, we need to replace the brown and red, of which there looks like 3 of them could match that, but I think it's this one here, the brown and red, and the dark green on this one for the left door speaker, and then the light green and violet for the right door speaker. So what I'm going to do is splice into these back here, or pull these out and see what kind of connector they have, and if I have that connector, then I may just splice my speaker cable right into this connector. The worst part is that the speakers actually, the wires change color over here on the ground on the passenger side up front in a junction block, and that's part of the connection problem. So let's pull this tape back to get started on a good splice location. It's not going to be too close so that in the future somebody can come in here and undo it or fix it if an aftermarket stereo goes in. We've opted to not go with an aftermarket stereo because the state of California doesn't penalize people when they steal things of a value of less than $1,000. And so that would basically be this whole entire Jeep to get stolen. So I wouldn't want to risk putting a nice stereo in here to have it stolen only to be out the cost of windows and everything else for no reason. So we're going to stick with the stock one for now and continue to use a cassette to media adapter. All right. So let's splice the brown and red and the dark green. Strength. Green. Oh, it's actually two colors of wire on this one. It goes from light blue, black up the speaker, dark blue and red interconnect, and then light green into the back of the stereo, which should be next to the brown red. So we will splice that a little bit off from the other one so that depending on which junctions I use, they don't jumble up on there too heavily. And then the violet. Which should be between dark green and brown and blue. Is this brown and blue? It is. So this would be the violet. Again, I'm not going to splice it at the same position. Still leave enough slack so that we can work on this, make changes to it in the future. So there we have the 4 wires are cut. Now the front speakers don't work. Not that they did anyways. So let's get to stripping these wires and figure out which fusion technique I want to use. So it turns out I have 2 sizes of speaker wire, 24 gauge and 16 gauge. Needless to say, I'm going to be using the 16 gauge. This might even be 14 gauge home audio. But I don't care. This is what I'm going to use because it's not, the 24 gauge is absolutely too small. I don't know what I was thinking buying it. Couldn't even run an iPad speaker from it. So also, I'm just going to use classic crimp butt connectors to splice it. This isn't a professional car audio system, it just has to be able to make noise. So we're going to start with the brown and red wire. And let's get that spliced out. Crimped on this side. And then the dark green. These are the left door speaker. I had to launch this careful. Another. No, four. Just not all together. Wire. Now let's decide which one goes to plus and which one goes to negative. It's totally arbitrary. I just need to remember when I put it on the other side. Please, this one to 5. Okay. Now I'm going to see if these are shrink wrap. I don't remember if they are, so I'm just going to hit them with the blowtorch and find out. Okay, so I've secured the blowtorch. Well, a heat gun, obviously. And these are heat shrink. It's taking too long, I gotta turn it up. Okay, that part's done. Now I'll wait for these to cool off, get the new connectors for the other side, and repeat the same thing. So one thing I'm going to do before I get too far ahead of myself is verify that the wires that I disconnected aren't connected to anything else. So the radio clock works, and the radio works. Right rear or left rear, right rear. Of course, nothing in front because they're not doing anything. Excellent. So I didn't break anything yet. So now on to feeding these to the each of the door panels. We've now moved over to the door. There's a couple of Phillips screws to pull the entire door panel off to access the speaker. So let's get started on that. Be very careful, the door is obviously very old and brittle. I know this one's very old, and then some clip tool, find all of clips. I'm breaking, I feel great, but not really out of my lot. There we go. Yeah, that's true. And then once you have all the disconnected, the door will come straight up. Then you reach inside here and disconnect the two plastic latches that hold the metal rods for the door lock and the door actuator. And again, they're plastic, so you have to be very careful and not break them. They rotate away from the metal rod. And then there's 3 connectors for the door locks and the mirror control. There we have it. Door panel is off. And not too worse for wear, but all of the connectors, basically all of these are broken. So I'll go ahead and pull them all off and replace them with fancy green ones. So here we have access to the door panel. As you can see, we've been in here before. There's the speaker, and this is the flexible conduit that we have to run the speaker wire through. So next what we're going to do is remove the speaker and then see what we have to do to pull the panels to be able to run this. But first, the speaker comes out. I'm fairly confident that the speaker is probably still good, but I don't really care because since I had to get in here anyways and run the wires, might as well put new speakers in it. So the next step here is to get this panel off so that we can access the conduit. And the way that the easiest way to get it off is to remove these two screws right here. They're Phillips heads. And then gently peel this up. And then there's a 13mm washer nut thingy that's in the back of the panel here. And you need a deep socket to get to it for, once you have, you can bring that out and then peel this away very carefully because it's brittle. And that'll give you enough space to actually jockey this panel out. And then you can access all the wiring and everything that's underneath here. So I'm going to finish routing this speaker wire through to this area and then through the flexible conduit. I'm not going to put it inside the sleeved section that's in there because it's just too much of a hassle, but I am going to feed it through here and then we'll pick up, we're getting ready to wire up the speaker. So what I was able to do was feed it over the steering column, then back down around this side, in through this grommet. I popped a hole in this grommet, not through the main feed, but right next to it. Then pulled out the flexible conduit insulator boot and was able to feed this through on both sides and then replace the rubber conduit boot back into its place. And of course we've got too much, so we'll cut this down to a reasonable length and we're going to get started installing the speaker. Before we close this back up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean this off and I'm going to clean the door panel off, and then I've got some double-sided sticky tape that I'll use to put this insulation back in place. It's been pulled off a few times. I think we replaced the window regulator in the past, and just the stickiness is just completely gone from a combination of dirt inside here and dust and just being pulled off. So I'm going to get to that, and once we get going back on the speaker, I'll come back online. So, a little simple green and a cloth. Get started on cleaning this up and give you a little montage. So here we have a couple of items that are kind of important for this project. AutoZone has this cool kit that has a bunch of crimp connectors in it that work really well. One of the advantages is it has really small and normal size crimp connectors, so they fit more snugly on the speakers. And the speakers that we're installing are these Kicker 300 watt max, 6.5 inches. Let's take a look at these. Get ready to get this installed. So they come with their own screen, but we're not going to use that in this project. We're just going to leave it with the stock configuration, just basically to reduce the risk of somebody breaking into the vehicle and stealing more things that they don't need. So off camera, what I've already done is taken 2 of these crimp connectors and crimp them to the appropriate wires. And then I also electrical tape the old wire, because I don't want to strip everything out of there. I just electrical taped it on so that it won't rattle while the audio is playing in the car. So let's get this connected. The red goes to the positive and the black goes to the negative. Never seen existing screws, not here. This one takes around. Okay. So I just went ahead and threw a self-tapping screw down here so I didn't have to go through the whole hassle of drilling it and using the little metal guys. I know the window's all the way down. I don't hear any glass, so I must not have hit it. No, I just used a really short screw that just barely cracks through the metal. So that's it. I just have to duplicate the same process on the other side and then put everything back together, turn it on, and see if we made it work. So I'm not going to bore you with all that, but we'll come back when I've got everything back together and take a final test. Let's see. So as I said, I've gone ahead and replaced all of the things with the new ones. So let's get this door on. First, start with the connectors. Here's windows. And the door handle and lock. And if you do happen to break these, generally these little plastic connectors are available in the help section at most auto parts stores. Hopefully I'm ready, but you need this one. Okay, hold on, and then start hanging from the top. And then you're on the side. Here we go. Start, get ready. Okay. Got a couple of screws to put in, and this side is done. Okay, we're on the final stretch now. We've got the doors buttoned up, and we've got the speakers in, so now all we have to do is put in the stereo and test the system. So, we're going to make it work. See here. There we go. So forward, left, right, rear, left, right, center, and center. Boom, it works. Success. So now I just gotta button it all up, and this project is done. Perfect. Set the clock, and it's good. I have no idea how to set the clock. I know how to set the clock. There's a little button here for hour. So we want to put it to 6. And there's a little button here for seconds. 6:07 a.m. No, 6:07 p.m. It's time to stop for the night. This project is officially done.
And on the right six, and this is it. Here,